Hi there, my name is Matt Waterfield. I am the head coach at Nottingham Triathlon Club, and in today's video we are answering a series of questions from our members for advice and tips on preparing for your first triathlon, or in this case an early season triathlon. Thanks to everyone that's sent in any questions, and we'll crack on and try and be as succinct as possible. Starting off, first question is, do I need a tri-suit? And also, what clothing should I race in? So I would advise getting a tri-suit if possible. It means that you can transition from swim, bike, run, and have one piece of clothing that is suitable for all. Yes, you can get changed between specific items from swimsuit, bike kit, and run kit. However, it's worth noting that not all venues are going to have changing facilities, and nudity is something that is not allowed. So yeah, some things to bear in mind there. The next one comes from the swim element. We're looking at this from the lens of a pool-based swim, where you're going to have to swim normally 16 lengths for 400 meters. How many people will be in the lane? This is variable, but be prepared that there are going to be other people in, and you will potentially need to pass and or be passed. I would say you're potentially looking at somewhere between 4 and 6 people in your lane, and as people are starting at a staggered time, we'll be getting in and out throughout this. There will obviously be marshals poolside to help you navigate. The next question is, what happens if I lose count of how many lengths I'm doing? I would be mindful of this. Have a tactic to break it down. Obviously, 16 divides into 4. It can be difficult if you're being passed. In the heat of race day. A lot of people will have a device, a watch that will kind of count the number of lengths as well. So that's useful. But if you don't, just be mindful. Try and count your lengths, and just be honest. You don't want to swim too short, but also you definitely don't want to swim too long. We had quite a lot of questions about nutrition, which I'll probably come to at the end. So I'll just skip through that. Can I get changed in transition? I think we covered that with clothing. This is event and race specific, but generally there will be provisions to get changed, to change rooms or change tent. But please check with your race organizer to make sure. Next question is, do I need a racing bike? So when you go to your first triathlon, in transition, you will see a whole host of bikes, some that look like spaceships from another world. If you're just getting started, this can be quite daunting and intimidating. However, all you need is a roadworthy bike. So make sure that it's well maintained and looked after. But as long as you can get through the cut-offs, any serviceable working bike will be fine. So whether that's a hybrid, if you even see people do kind of triathlons on mountain bikes, obviously there's different things to optimize your speed and pace. But all you need to do to get started is a roadworthy bike, and you must have a helmet as well. That's another rule that is important in triathlon. It says, can I cycle in running trainers? I don't have clipless pedals. The quick answer is yes. You don't need all the fancy equipment to get started. And before you've got his flats and running trainers, then yes, go for it. Going back a few years, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, but there's a celebrated age group called Alan Murchison who notoriously did sprint triathlon to a very high international level, and he had a special set of clipless pedals, clipless toe straps where he could get in and out without taking his running shoes off. That every second counts. But if you're just getting started, don't worry about having clip-in pedals. It is a benefit as you progress through the sport, but you definitely don't need it to take part in your first triathlon. Okay, so the next lot is about nutrition, and then there's a great question about where can I find local triathlon events. If you go on to British Triathlon website, there's a tool there where you can filter by distance and location, and all sorts of things to find the events. Also, being part of a club and tapping into people that have been doing it for many years is a great way to find out about events as well. And then there's another question about the GB age group squad. So some races are going to be set up to be qualification races to qualify for the GB age group team. There's a lot of information on the British Triathlon website about that. That's probably something a bit deeper for another more in-depth chat. But check out British Triathlon website for all the information for that. Next question asks, what could get me disqualified in a race? So what we'll do is we'll cover some basic sort of important rules for your first event. So the first thing I'd say with getting to the race early is make sure you're familiar with transition, because a lot of rules revolve around what you can and can't do in transition. We've already mentioned nudity, so you can't get changed, you can't be naked in transition. So that's boxed off. You must wear a helmet, and you must have your helmet on before you touch your bike. So when you come from the swim, the first thing you want to be thinking about doing is putting your helmet on before you grab your bike. And again, you must take your helmet off when you've actually finished with the bike. So you've gone back into transition, racked, and then take your helmet off. Must be a proper cycling helmet. There's mounts and dismount lines, which will be signified by a marshal, but getting there early will mean that you can kind of figure out the flow of transition, where you come from the swim into the transition, where you head out on the bike and then back in on the bike, out on the run. So make sure you're familiar with the flow. And one of the important rules here is that you must mount your bike after the mount line, and you must dismount your bike before the mount line. Like I said, there's normally a marshal there. There'll be a line on the ground, normally cones, and people signify with flags. But get on your bike after the line and get off your bike before the line. Otherwise, that would be a penalty. Speaking of the bike, drafting is illegal. It depends on the race, how long the draft zone will be. So check with the specific race. But for a British triathlon event, I believe it's 12 meters behind the person in front, and you have a certain amount of time to go from behind to past the rider. If somebody goes past you, it's your obligation to drop back. If they don't appear to pull away at first, you can't just sit on their wheel. You have to let them go. If you need to go past them, then let them go ahead. And if they're still not getting anywhere, then you can retake them, but you must let them pass. Okay, so drafting is an important part of triathlon. And then also you must follow the course. Should go without saying, the swim should be straightforward. In the pool, try and count your 16 lengths, 400 meters. Follow the bike course. Do your research. There'll often be a GPS map, or it'll be well signposted, but it's your responsibility to follow the course. Same as the run. Make sure that you do the whole distance. And then another rule would be sort of linked to nudity, but you can't go off the course and relieve yourself there for a comfort break. So that is something that could also get you disqualified. If you can think of any others that will help, that would be great. Put them in the comments below. Tips for a transition. I think I've been through all the bases there. Get there early. Make sure you know the flow of transition. The other thing I would probably add into that is less is often more. Just isolate what you're going to need for the day, and if it's going to be a cold day, you might want an extra layer there. Potentially gloves, but kind of try and keep it as simple as possible, and make sure your transition area is neat and tidy, because you're going to share in that space with lots of other athletes. But get your items laid out in the order that you're going to need them. So obviously you start off with your swim kit. Then when you come into transition T1, you want to make sure that your bike things are available. So your helmet is readily accessible, your bike shoes are there ready to go. And then when you get off the bike, you should then be able to dispose of them cleanly and tidily in your area, and then get hold of your run shoes. And if you have a hat or glasses or whatever you might need them, but keep it the least amount of stuff that you need. You don't need unnecessary clutter, and be organised to go through the race from swim to bike to run. The next question is, I'm worried I'll be last. Can you give advice on this? First piece of advice is try not to worry. Obviously, that's easier said than done. Generally, in this context of a pool-based swim, the slower athletes go off earlier in the day, and that has pros and cons, but generally it means that it gives them longer to finish the race. Some races will have cut-off times where you have to have done certain elements of the race within a time limit, and if you unfortunately don't hit that, you will be pulled off the course. Make sure you check your event to be clear on that. Try not to worry. Train for the event. That's obviously something to say. Make sure you're comfortable swimming 400 meters continuously. Make sure that you've covered the distance on the bike and you can complete it. But triathlon is a supportive community. There will be people there to help you on the day and to give you support and guidance. But yeah, do everything you can. Try and be prepared, as well prepared as you can be. Go with an open mind, and enjoy it. And unless there are cut-offs such as longer distance races, you should be fine that you'll be able to complete the event. And as long as you put down an accurate swim time, you will be seeded nicely within the event. So you'll be racing in and around people of similar ability, certainly for the swim anyway. Obviously, variances between bike and run ability. But yeah, make sure number one thing is that you're prepared, and if you're prepared, then you can enjoy the race. Okay, so next set of questions. Can I put shoes on after the swim? This ties in quite specifically to the race that we're thinking about, which is Eastleigh, which is always a very early season sprint triathlon. And there is a run from the swimming pool into T1, and that is over tarmac and up and down some undulations. I know at this event they allow you to put a pair of trainers just outside the pool exit, so you can put trainers on, get yourself down to T1 in your shoes, and then change as you need to there. Obviously, something to think about. You can think, well, okay, I'm focused on doing the best I can. I don't want to waste time putting shoes on. Maybe practicing running on some tarmac just for a short distance to condition and get used to that. But can you do it? Yes, in this event you can. Not all events will be the same, so double check with the organizer. But yeah, it's something to consider for sure. Okay, so the next question is again really kind of relevant to this event. I am worried about really being really cold, and should I get changed? So this is something that I have experienced myself. Even in summer races, you race early in the morning, so it can still be fresh. If you're swimming in open water, the water temperature can be cold. And then conversely, even if you're in a swimming pool, you might be off early. The forecast for next weekend is that it's looking fresh. So you can get out of the water and suddenly hit get outside and it's cold. The question is, should I get changed? Definitely be prepared with layers. So what I say to my athletes is we train hard, and we're doing a race. We want to be the best we can, so we want to choose items of clothing that don't hinder our performance. Flappy jackets, things that are going to make it harder to cycle. Cycling is something to be mindful of. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be cold. So my general rule of thumb is core and extremities. Obviously, if you're so cold that your hands aren't working and you've got to control, your gears and your brake levers, you don't want to be in that situation. But I've been in a situation where I've tried to put arm warmers on and all different bits and pieces. And actually, if you can keep your core warm and your extremities warm, you're soon going to get going, and hopefully, it'll be manageable. It's different to a running event. If you come from a running background, where you'll often see runners stood on the start line, they've done a warm up, and then they've just got a skimpy pair of shorts and a running vest on, and you're soon warm. Obviously, on the bike, you've come out of the swim, and then there's much more of a wind chill factor when you're on the bike. So, don't be afraid to have layers, but keep it minimal. You don't need to overdo it. But yeah, you're not going to go to your full potential if you're freezing cold. So yeah, it is acceptable, and in certain instances, a good idea to get layered up. There's going to be people that want to complete the event for their own personal achievement. There's going to be people that want to win their age group and come in the top 10 or whatever, and they're going to have different outlooks on how they're going to manage that. And so think about what's important for you, and then act accordingly. Okay, the next one is, are there some must pack items you would recommend? Okay, so don't forget your necessities, your kit. So making sure you've obviously, your bike's pretty obvious, you're not going to forget that. But last time I did this event, I forgot goggles and swim cap. So even somebody that thinks they've done quite a lot of triathlons is quite experienced can still make stupid mistakes. So yeah, make sure you've got your swim hat and goggles. Goggles are quite specific. A lot of people have ones that work for them. So yeah, be prepared for that. Obviously, make sure that your bike's in good order. You hopefully won't forget it. But whatever you're going to cycle in, your shoes and of course your helmet. That's a necessity, and making sure you've got your running shoes as well. Another thing to consider is a number belt. You do have to display a number at all times, which after the swim you'll swim without it, but then you'll put it in T1. So try and get yourself a number belt. If you don't have one, there's normally a retailer, a stall or something at events where you can buy one. They're generally not expensive. But yeah, you must have a number displayed on your back when cycling and on your front when running. So yeah, a number belt is super useful. Everything else, let me know if I've forgotten anything. There's a chance, but everything else could be personal, whether it's a running hat or glasses or there's a plethora of things, but I think that sort of like summarizes the must-haves. Make sure you've got your race license as well if you're a British triathlon member, or some ID to make sure that you can be identified when you get to the race as well. And the other thing I would say from a sensible perspective is having clothes on for the finish. I often say to athletes, I've been saying this one actually, people are going to be kind of like racing what they're comfortable with, which is again depending on their objectives, but make sure that you've got something to put on pretty much straight away to keep yourself warm. What you don't want to be doing this time of year is racing and then getting ill and potentially not being able to carry on training and lose that consistency. So the next question is, how do I know where to get on my bike? So that's been covered with what I've said about the dismount line. There will be a mountain dismount line that's manned by a marshal. The one thing to be mindful of when you get to transition, it's very likely, most triathlons, you'll have a racking spot that correlates to your race number. So make sure that you put the bike in the correct spot, facing the correct way on the racking. And familiarise yourself when you're doing your triathlon walkthrough where your bike is. You can count what rack it's on, or have something in the environment that you can associate with where your bike is. You can't mark it. You can't put a balloon or anything on it to mark it specifically, but you can say, okay, it's in line with that tree, or I'm the second rack, third bay, and kind of have an idea. Because when you come out the swim and you're maybe a little bit discombobulated from going from horizontal swimming, running to T1, to be mindful of where your bike is. So yeah, that's something to be thoughtful of. And then the last one I think I've covered in the questions with about race belts. Yeah, it's a great point. Arrive on site an hour before. So yeah, I would say that's a good amount of time. Sometimes parking is a walk or a distance from the actual race, because obviously the race is around venues where transition is around the bike and run course. So just give yourself plenty of time. Look what time your race goes off. Plan your travel time, add a little bit on, and give yourself time to familiarise yourself with the event and chat to some people. You'll no doubt speak to somebody that's in a similar situation from you, or that's been where you've been, and can give you some key points of advice. So very quickly, I hope to try and keep this under 20 minutes or there and thereabouts. Some stuff on nutrition. So I'm going to look at this through the lens of a sprint triathlon. And what I would advise is to keep it simple. So one of the questions is about what do I do before the event? And I would presume everyone trains at the weekend. And so you're used to eating the night before, getting up early to go and do a run, ride, etc. So you should hopefully have an idea of what works for you. My main advice would be to keep it simple. It's an endurance event, so you want to focus on maybe getting a higher amount of carbs with your evening meal. Eat relatively early, so your evening meal is well settled. A decent amount of carbs, so maybe a little bit of extra carbohydrate with your meal, and keep it simple. Rice and chicken or rice and salmon, nothing too heavy, nothing too spicy, nothing too extravagant. And that should see you right. Even if you're a first-time sprint triathlete, you're going to be looking in around 2 hours. By having a good meal the night before and a good breakfast, that's going to see you most of the way through. If you're at the sharp end and you're doing it in an hour, realistically, you're not going to need a huge amount of extra sustenance for the race. Leads on to breakfast. The timing of breakfast beforehand, I would advise 2.5 to 3 hours before you're off. And again, if you've had a good carb-heavy evening meal, you'll need a relatively simple, light, straightforward, carb-rich breakfast. You don't want to overdo it. In the lens of a sprint triathlon, keep it pretty straightforward. And again, just choose things you know that work for you, whether that's bread, toast, porridge. Something that's really simple and straightforward. Don't overcomplicate it. And one take-home piece of advice for most things is don't try anything new on race day. So if you're buying a tri suit, make sure you've tried it in advance. If you're thinking about kind of putting your shoes on the pedals and doing a flying mount, a bit more advanced, but make sure you've tried that before race day. Whatever it is, the kit or technique, give it a go in advance. And then fueling for the actual event. Again, it's not massively long, so you shouldn't need a huge amount of course fueling, but a carb drink on the bike will probably see you through, and or maybe a gel and something just at the start of the run. But you shouldn't need a huge amount to do something of this duration. Just something that gives you a bit of confidence that your glycogen stores are topped up and will get you through. There should be some sort of a hydration on the run course at least. Most events do. I know that this East League specifically does, but that will all be in your race pack. And I'd say probably the best advice I can give for race specific stuff is read the race pack and spend a bit of time. Even if you're a seasoned athlete, it's going to tell you where to park. It's going to tell you some little bits and pieces that are event specific. So read the race pack and make sure you're there for a race briefing as well, because there's some crucial information that will definitely be beneficial to you. And all that's left to say is good luck and enjoy it.